Howdy folks, thanks for stopping in at Big Mook's Forge. In today's video, I'm going to go over one of the things that gets overlooked by a lot of warband leaders during the battles in the mean streets of Mordheim. That's right folks, I'm going to show y'all how to get some booty.
Big Mook's Forge.
All too often, we, as warband leaders, often overlook looting in favor of setting up and executing our battle plans. The problem with that mindset shows up later in our warband's career. We soon find ourselves unable to train our troops in the martial and magical arts, pay medical bills, recruit new warriors, and provide them with the best gear available. On top of that, the cartels, as I've heard them so accurately referred to, are increasingly more difficult to satiate in their demands for wyrdstone. The remedy to all of these problems is simply to loot wherever and whenever you can. That's why your troops are risking their necks in Mordheim in the first place, to get rich. One of the first things I like to do when the mission loads up is to look at the map. Not only does this provide me with the tactical information I need to formulate a battle plan, but I can also see where all the loot is as well. This allows me to incorporate the loot situation into my battle plan. If you see that you're going to be passing through an area with loot spawns, well, grab them on your way by. Loot markers come in three varieties. On wyrdstone loot locations appears a neon green rock formation. General loot locations appears a small yellowish sack with a dagger stabbed into it, and these will contain weapons, consumables, or gold coins. The third loot marker only appears after a character has died in battle. Now I've seen two versions of this marker. One appears as a yellowish hand with an arrow pointing upwards out of the palm, and the other appears as the unit icon of the character that died there. Either way, you should know exactly what it is because you'll have likely killed the character that died there. Depending on the primary and secondary mission objectives and my warband's deployment, I generally move towards the area with the highest concentration of loot markers. Sometimes your secondary objective is to outloot the opposing warband. But be careful with this though. This is where a lot of demons seem to spawn when they're present in the mission. Now each character has personal inventory slots. The number of slots a character has is determined by that character's strength and unit type. For every third point of strength a character has, he'll gain another inventory slot. Be careful when equipping your characters. If you equip your character with any consumables, those items will take up inventory space, which reduces the amount of slots in which you have to carry loot. Now, if you're unsure how many slots your character has available, you can hit the spacebar to open up the full ability wheel. And down at the bottom, you can check the status of that character's inventory. Also, if you place a character on a loot spawn and he has no room in his inventory, well, it'll tell you so right down there in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. Should your character be lucky enough to snatch up some booty and he's not engaged in combat, you may want to consider stopping by your wagon to drop it off. By putting his loot in your warband's chest, he'll free up space to grab more loot. At first, you're not likely to find the bottom of your chest, but as you get better and more diligent about running loot back to your chest, you'll soon find that it also has a limited number of slots available to store items. Not to worry, as your warband gains levels, you'll be awarded with additional slots in your chest. As you approach a typical wyrdstone spawn, you'll be able to see it on the battlefield. Its neon green gem-like appearance stands out against the otherwise dreary backdrop that's Mordheim. Moving close enough to a wyrdstone spawn will change the default action in your ability wheel to Gather Wyrdstone. If you place your character within a group of spawns, the default action will be Interact. Choosing to interact will put you into targeting mode. You'll be able to choose between the wyrdstone spawns that your character can reach from where he's standing. The yellow outline targets are those that are available to you, and the red outline target is the target you currently have selected. Once you have chosen your target, left click to confirm. While the act of looting is a free action, it'll end the available movement of the current strategy point. After you loot, you begin movement at the cost of another strategy point, and any strategy points you have spent up until this point are not refundable. That makes it beneficial to place your character amongst a group of spawns so that you can loot several times without having to spend any further strategy points. It's also smart to inch towards loot spawns that are either at the edge of your circle or near the center of the circle. A lot of times this will allow you to enter the radius of the loot spawns without spending any strategy points at all. There are three types of wyrdstone spawns: fragments, shards, and clusters. As you would expect, the spawns that appear larger and more valuable on the battlefield are indeed more valuable than the smaller spawns. The exception are the wyrdstone spawns that are inside of a bag. They'll appear as wyrdstone spawns on the map, but you won't be able to determine which type they are until you loot that bag. Each fragment, shard, or cluster takes up one inventory slot in your character's personal inventory and in your warband's wagon. So when approaching a group of wyrdstone spawns, it's best to grab the bigger ones first. After looting a wyrdstone spawn, your character must make a wyrdstone resistance check to avoid the effects. Should your character fail this check, he'll be given a buff or a debuff that generally lasts until the next turn, or he'll take a small amount of health damage. Some of these effects are beneficial and some are detrimental, so check to see what the effects are before you go charging off into the fray. You can check your character's current buff and debuff status by hitting the B button. As these effects are completely random, there's no way to know if they're going to help you or hurt you. Looting environmental loot spawns and dead bodies is similar to looting wyrdstone spawns, but slightly different. When you encounter a place where you can loot, it'll appear as a glowing white circle on the ground and a glowing white sparkling particle effect rising out of it. If you have nothing blocking your line of sight, you'll be able to see them from a long ways off. When one of these loot locations occurs within a building, you may have to search around a little bit to find it. In the case of a multi-level building, you can sometimes see the glowing coming through the floor or the ceiling, telling you that it's either above or below you. Once you've located the spot, simply move your character onto the white circle and the default ability option will change to loot. Just like wyrdstone spawns, it's a free action to loot, but it may cost you a strategy point depending on where it lands in your current movement circle. A careful approach may save you some strategy points. When you activate the loot location or dead body, the loot window will open, allowing you to transfer the contents of the container into your character's inventory. The container's inventory will be on the right, and your character's will be on the left. Left-clicking on an item will move it over to the other window, so long as there's room to put it there. Right-clicking will close the window, and you can go about your business from there. It's also worth noting that you can move items both ways. This is useful because you may find a couple of items that are more valuable than what your character is already carrying. Since there's no way to drop items from your inventory, you can swap them out for more valuable items in this manner. After selling off several items, you'll quickly learn that items such as heavy armor sell for more than clothing, and you'll be thankful for the option to trade up. Looting dead bodies is exceptionally helpful. Not only does this allow you to loot items to sell in the shop, but you can also find items useful to your warband, especially if you're fighting a warband of the same type as your own. Things like warp-lock pistols, flails, hunting rifles, and other specialized items are easier to obtain from the dead than from the shop. Looting your own characters who have fallen is helpful for ensuring that you get their equipment back at the end of the mission. It's also helpful for recovering wyrdstone that they may have looted before they fell. One other thing to consider about looting the dead is whether or not your secondary objective is the Mark for Death mission. The Mark for Death mission requires you to kill certain opposing warband members and to loot a certain item off their corpse. Once your character has looted all that he can carry, stopping by your wagon to drop off his loot is a good idea to make room for more looting. Placing your character at the back of your wagon on the white circle will give you the option to open your chest. Again, the loot window will open, but you'll be doing things in reverse. Move everything you don't want to keep on that character from the left window over to the right. Once you've emptied your backpack, you can head back out into the fray. And if you're exceptionally lucky or devious and find yourself in the enemy's wagon, you can also loot their chest and take what they've placed there for not so safe keeping. Depending on how well the fight's going, you could also swipe their idol while you're there. If you have room in your bag to carry it, that is. Stealing the enemy idol causes the opposing warband to suffer a substantial decrease in morale. If the morale gets low enough, it could force them to start taking route tests. While this is great if you've bitten off a bit more than you can chew and need to shift the momentum in your favor, it could also end the fight a little bit too early, limiting the amount of loot you'll be able to acquire. Stealing the enemy's idol and placing it in your chest is the objective of the secondary mission, Crush Their Will. On a side note, at the back of your wagon you can step on that yellow circle and get the option to pray at your idol. Praying at your idol will give you a buff. Now depending on the level of your warband, the value of this buff will change. While it may seem like a small thing, it could save your bacon at some point, so why not? You're there anyway. After writing the material for this video, I created a Sisters of Sigmar warband and used as many of these tactics as I could. I played one mission at normal difficulty with average wyrdstone and average loot. I also opted to take the default deployment. I decided to include the mission results screen to illustrate what using this mindset can do for your warband's financial situation. Now unfortunately, I didn't do very well in the items category. For some reason, only one of the 3 guys I killed dropped any loot. However, you can see that I did very well in the coin and wyrdstone categories. I was able to come away from this battle with no losses, 75 gold, 91 weight in wyrdstone. I haven't even received my first delivery request. I almost have enough wyrdstone to fill it. Admittedly, I was fortunate with the amount of wyrdstone in my deployment area and the enemy's scattered deployment. But I know that if I'd been too focused on destroying the enemy, I would have come away from the battle with a lot less loot. Especially since only one of the guys I killed even dropped any. Now I appreciate you taking the time to watch my video, especially if you made it this far. And if you found this video entertaining or informative, well, give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this one, mash that subscribe button. That's all I've got for you folks today. I'll see y'all in the streets of Mordheim.
You follow Luke.